The inquirer who asks why ancient craft masonry is blue, why we speak of blue lodges, blue degrees, wear aprons edged with blue, suspend jewels about the necks of officers with blue ribbons, is faced at once with two divergent schools of thought. One of these is the practical, hard-headed, founded on fact school of the Masonic historian and antiquary. The other is that which associates ideas with objects, with colours, numbers, beasts, birds, natural phenomena, etc., as symbolism has been developed and followed throughout the history of mankind.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's presentation From the Quarries, an archive of Masonic lore.
Historians, both Masonic and secular, agree that the square has been a symbol of rectitude, honesty, fair dealing, and justice the world over for unknown ages. But the symbolist who reads much into the familiar square apron with its triangular flap is at once confronted with the undoubted fact that this form of apron is modern, not ancient. The invention of the square as a tool must have been coincident with the first appreciation of the right angle, and the advantages in solidity and ease of construction of the use of stones and timbers which were squared. Its symbolism, therefore, goes back to time immemorial. Masonic aprons used by operative masons were simple skins of any shape or of no particular shape. With the change from operative to speculative, the apron became conventionalized, but only in comparatively recent times did it assume its present rectangular and triangular features. The symbolism read into its present shape will not fit, for instance, the aprons worn by George Washington, which had curved flaps and rounded corners. Blue, as the colour for ancient craft masonry, is accounted for by two schools of thought on its origin. Both can adduce considerable evidence. One believes that the symbolism of the colour, like that of the square, comes to us from time immemorial, and that the colour must have been adopted because of its meanings. The other demonstrates that blue, as a Masonic colour, is not as old as the Mother Grand Lodge, and that it was adopted for other than symbolic reasons. Blue was a sacred colour to the priests of Israel. The colour is mentioned first in the Old Testament, in Exodus 25 verses 3-4, in which the Lord commands Moses to speak to the children of Israel. And this is the offering which ye shall take of them, gold and silver and brass and blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen and goat's hair. Throughout Exodus and Numbers are many references to the colour, and several are to be found in Chronicles, Esther, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel. We read of the fine twined linens, make the ephod of gold and blue, bind the breastplates with a lace of blue, pomegranates of blue, an overhanging for the tabernacle of blue, needlework of blue, a cloth wholly of blue, etc. Perhaps the most interesting allusion is in Numbers 15, verses 37-40. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them fringes in the borders of their garments throughout their generations, and that they put upon the fringes of the borders a riband of blue. And it shall be unto you for a fringe, that ye may look upon it, and remember all the commandments of the Lord, and do them, and that ye seek not after your own heart and your eyes, after which ye used to go a-whoring, that ye may remember and do all my commandments, and be holy unto your God. Mackey notes that the blue of the Old Testament is a translation of the Hebrew techelet, which is derived from a root signifying perfection. He develops the idea that the blue was anciently and universally sacred as follows. Among the Druids, blue was the symbol of truth, and the candidate in the initiation into the sacred rites of Druidism was invested with a robe composed of the colours white, blue, and green. The Egyptians esteemed blue as a sacred colour, and the body of Amun, the principal god of their theogony, was painted light blue to imitate, as Wilkinson remarks, his peculiarly exalted and heavenly nature. The ancient Babylonians clothed their idols in blue, as we learn from the prophet Jeremiah. The Chinese, in their mystical philosophy, represented blue as the symbol of the deity because, being, as they say, composed of black and red, this colour is a fit representation of the obscure and brilliant, the male and female, or active and passive principles. The Hindus assert that their god Vishnu was represented by a celestial or sky blue, thus indicating that wisdom emanating from God was to be symbolized by this colour. Among the medieval Christians, blue was sometimes considered as an emblem of immortality, as was red of divine love. Portal says that blue was the symbol of perfection, hope, and constancy. The colour of the celebrated dome, azure, was, in divine language, the symbol of eternal truth, in consecrated language, of immortality, and in profane, that for which Masons strive. Our ancient brethren met on hills and in vales, over which the blue vault of heaven is a ceiling. Jacob, in his wisdom, saw the ladder ascending from the earth to heaven. The covering of a lodge is the clouded canopy or starry-decked heaven. These allusions seem to connote that blue, the colour of the sky, is that of all the celestial attributes to which Masons strive. Man's earliest forms of worship were of the sun and fire. The sun rose, travelled and set in a realm of blue. To associate the colour with deity was inevitable. Blue is also the colour of the ocean, of mountain streams, of lakes, of good drinking water. That blue should also become emblematical of purity is equally natural. In heraldry, blue or azure signifies chastity, loyalty, and fidelity. In painting, the colour is frequently used in an emblematical manner, as in depicting an angel's robe, and in the robe of the Virgin Mary to signify humility, fidelity, and especially faith. It is the colour of hope. It has been held to signify eternity and immortality. Pale blue is especially associated with peace. There seem to be many grounds on which he can firmly stand who believes that Freemasonry adopted blue as the colour of the 3 degrees with this ancient symbolism in mind. Yet, it is to be remembered that Freemasonry, as we know it, was not formed overnight by any one group of men, each of whom contributed some idea to its ritual, ceremonies, ancient usages, and customs. No committee sat about a table to decide the question, what colour shall we adopt by which the ancient craft shall forevermore be distinguished? It is possible, of course, that the ancient operative Masons, from whose guilds and organisations modern Freemasonry came as a result of slow evolution, may have had an especial reverence for the colour blue. As has been noted, blue has been associated from early times in ecclesiastical history with the Virgin Mary. The earliest document of Freemasonry, the Regius poem of 1390, has 2 lines that read, "Pray we now to God Almight and to his mother, Mary Bright," which certainly connotes a reverence of these ancient Freemasons for Mary the Mother, and may easily be considered ground for thinking that the early builders also revered her special colour. However that may be, it is obvious that the absence of any evidence is not negative evidence. It is a commonplace of human experience that in the face of any positive experience for an idea, in the absence of any evidence against it, the fact should be admitted. All of which brings us to that which we know of the earliest use of blue as a Masonic colour. Regardless of how much we may wish that our forefathers had adopted blue for the symbolism, we are now content to read into the hue of heaven. Two extracts from the minutes of the Grand Lodge of England, formed in 1717, are explicit upon the matter of colour. The first reads, "Resolved, nem. con. that in private lodges and quarterly communications and general meetings, the masters and the wardens do wear jewels of masonry hanging to a white ribbon, that the master wear the square, the senior warden the level, the junior warden the plum rule." From the minutes of the Grand Lodge, 24th of June, 1727. Another extract reads, "Dr. de Saglier, taking notice of some irregularities in wearing the marks of distinction which have been allowed by former Grand Lodges, proposed that none but the Grand Master, his deputy, and wardens shall wear their jewels in gold or gilt pendant to blue ribbons about their necks, and white leather aprons lined with blue silk. That all those who have served in any of the 3 grand offices shall wear the like aprons lined with blue silk in all lodges and assemblies of masons when they appear clothed. That all masters and wardens of lodges may wear their aprons lined with white silk, and their respective jewels with plain white ribbons, but of no other colour whatsoever." The Deputy Grand Master accordingly put the question whether the above regulation should be agreed to, and it was carried in the affirmative, nem. con. From the minutes of the Grand Lodge, 17th of March, 1731. But why did the Grand Lodge adopt or permit blue in 1731 when white was specified just 4 years previously? Passing over the common but wholly coincidental reason that many taverns where masons met were distinguished by blue signs, such as the Blue Boar, the sanest theory seems to be that proposed by the noted Masonic scholar Fred J.W. Crow. He wrote in the 1909 to 1910 Lodge of Research Transactions, "The colour of the Grand Lodge officers' clothing was adopted from the ribbon of the most noble order of the Garter, the Grand Stewards from the Second National Order, the most honourable Order of the Bath. The Scottish Grand Lodge undoubtedly copied the ribbon of the most ancient and most noble Order of the Thistle, and the Grand Lodge of Ireland anticipated the formation of the most illustrious Order of St. Patrick in 1788 by selecting light blue, thus accidentally completing the series. Although I would suggest that light blue may in all probability have been chosen merely to mark a difference from the English Grand Lodge. In like manner, I believe the light blue of our own private lodge clothing was, by a natural sequence of ideas, adopted to contrast with the deeper colour of Grand Lodge attire, and not very long after the last named became the rule."
For more Masonic podcasts, videos, music, texts, and artwork, visit fromthequarries.com or subscribe to our YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook accounts by searching From the Quarries.